this is Anna Runyon from ClassyCareerGirl.com, and today in my networking challenge, I'm speaking with Denise McKelvey. Denise is a career and executive coach and the founder of My Path Now, and I'm really excited to speak with her today, so thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm excited. This is great, Anna.
Awesome. So how can someone who's beginning their job search try and figure out the right career path for them?
So for those looking for a new career or just starting out, maybe you're just out of college, one of the most valuable steps in looking for a job is really knowing who you are and what values you have in life. You know, our interests typically change over time, but our character and our value doesn't. Mm-hmm. So who you are and what comes naturally to you is what I call your core self. So before you start a search on the outside, you should really focus on the inside to really understand who you are naturally. And there's many ways that you can do this. You can hire a career coach or a career advisor, or you can do it yourself. And I recommend there's lots of online assessments that can help really look inside. This is a new concept for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Typically, they look for skills. Okay, I'm good at this or I'm good at that. I've been told I'm good at math, or I've been told I'm good with people, so I'm going to go into this area. When we take a look inside of who we are and what we really value, we tend to do a much better job in aligning that with what we want to do on the outside.
Okay. Yeah, I have so many friends who are unhappy in their jobs, but they just go right online to the internet and start applying and sending resumes and, not figuring out what the best thing is for them first. So.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's actually really important before you go to college, before you pick a study as well, to do some work, internal work. And they're offering that in high schools now, and even in colleges. There's coaching in colleges that they offer, and I encourage women to really look into that before they pick what they want to do in life.
So in case someone doesn't know, what is a value?
So, I was going to get into that. We tend to describe ourselves by the work we do or the activities we do. So, for instance, I'm an accountant or I'm an avid skier. This really only describes what we do. It's not who we are. So, when I talk about core self, the core self has many aspects, but the core components I work with are your natural character, your values, and even your passions. So your values would be traits such like independence or open-mindedness or adventuresome or a good way to understand what your values are is to ask yourself, what games did I play when I was younger? What did I enjoy? And as you go through that, you'll start naming things that you like, and those are really what your values are. So, for instance, for somebody that loved to play team sports or loved to play with a group of people rather than on their own, obviously they're very gregarious, and that's a value that you have, other people. Another way to look at it would be to ask yourself, what is a perfect day for me? What does it look like? Have I already had a perfect day? What does that look like? Or what would a perfect day look like to me? So, for example, I have a client that I asked, have you had a perfect day? And what did that perfect day look like? And she's like, oh, gosh, I had it just like last week or 2 weeks ago. And I said, well, describe it to me. And she described that the perfect day was she had this project that was really challenging to her at work, and she had to work on that in the morning, and then at lunchtime they had a team of people getting together that were going to put some new goals together, and they were going to make it exciting. They were going to come up with games to meet some goals. She said, and then after work I got called by my nonprofit organization, and they needed me at a hospital, and she does work with people in need. So she said it was the perfect day. So if you look what her values are, she likes challenges. She likes to work. She likes to be with teams. She's comfortable around people. She likes challenging herself. And then on the softer side, she likes to give back. She likes to help other people. So a perfect day for her was living all those values.
And do you have any examples of someone who was not in the right job for their values? Like, what can happen if you're not?
So, for instance, let's say I'm going to do an extreme opposite. Let's say you get a job offer and it's for sales, and you're like, oh, gosh, the commission's really good, and yeah, okay, I can do it. I can make myself do it. But you go and take that job, and in reality, you're a sole contributor, meaning you like to work alone. You like to be on a computer. You like to analyze things. And now you've thrown yourself into an environment where you're having to talk with people all the time. You may have to make cold calls. So you're definitely not aligned naturally with that position that you've just accepted. So you're unhappy. And you don't do well at it because it's not a natural thing for you.
Mm-hmm. So how can we align what we do on the outside with like our skills and our abilities on the inside?
So it's going to seem it's very simple, but we need to integrate all aspects of ourselves, right? So if we know who we are, and we can do some assessments online, there's some free assessments that are really good. I'll give you a couple of them. One that I always have my clients do is www.authentichappiness.com, and those are intrinsic strengths around truth and integrity, and they're real core strengths. And when you get your top 5, you'll really resonate with that. You'll say, wow, that's why I do this, or that's why I do that. For instance, my number one authentic value or authentic strength is social intelligence. And you go, well, what's social intelligence? Well, I'm able to be in a group, and I can read what's going on in the group, whether I'm speaking too fast, whether the subject is not, it's going over their head, or they're bored with it. Or I can isolate. I can actually tell whether one person of the group isn't getting something, so I'm able to draw them in. So once you go and you find out what those core values and skills and strengths are, then you look at, what am I good at on the outside? Skills and talents that you have, whether it's math, whether it's speaking with people, some of the outside things you do. So once you have those aligned, meaning you know what you do well naturally inside, you have what your skills and talents are, whether it's through education, your environment, or you're just naturally good at something, you know what those are. So I help clients come up with then career satisfiers. So, and it's based on those two things, really, who your core self is and what you do talent-wise. Once you have those, then you actually look for a job that will meet that career, those career satisfiers that you put together. And really, you can put your top list together, and as you go through jobs, you can say, well, it meets that and not that, but this is really high on my list, so this may not be something I need to, go down that road with.
Yeah, I suppose you would save a lot of time too, because then you won't apply to those jobs where it doesn't match. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, do you also do an assessment of like what your purpose is and your meaning?
Well, yeah, that's yes, we do, and just depending on where you are in your career and where you are in life, our values might shift a little bit. So, for instance, one of my values is independence, and financial independence was huge when I first started out. And it's still independence, but it's kind of shift a little bit and more for, personal independence. I want to be able to work when I want to work, and I want to be able to give back, and I want to be more fulfilling from a personal side rather than a financial side. So, I was just going to go down a path, and I forgot what your question was.
The meaning and finding meaning and purpose in our jobs.
Yes. So most of the time, your values and your core self will help guide you in terms of what your purpose is. So let's take, for instance, an accountant, somebody that likes to work with numbers. They're like, how could that be my purpose? That's not my purpose. I go and I work with numbers, yeah, and I like it, but that's really not my purpose. So when we go into what what does that give you? What does looking at numbers give to you? And when you go down to that level of wow, what does that really give me? Typically, it's around independence. It's around security. It's around letting numbers work for you. And I'm finding that overall, from a client that's a CEO to a client that just got out of college, most of the time, people want to help other people. And in accounting, I've had clients that are accountants that find, wow, so by knowing all of this, I can literally help somebody be more financially independent, or to understand financially where they need to go because they've just been in a divorced situation. So they find that their skills and talents and those core values that mean something to them are usable in a much bigger sense or meaning
I love that.
for them.
Yeah, it makes going to work, so much better when you have a purpose and a meaning behind it, definitely.
Yeah, and typically when people are unhappy, they're not living through their values. So let's say somebody's not happy at work and they think it's ready for a change. They're ready for a change, and I need to leave. That's typically not the best time to be looking for the job, because that energy surrounds you. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I like. My job pays pretty good, so I'm going to stay there. And that's typically, when you're at that point, that's the perfect time to say, what is it that this job isn't needing of mine? What is it? Am I working alone too much? Do I work with people too much? Is it not challenging enough? And if you know who you are and what that core self is, you can quickly identify what's not being met. And I advise clients all the time, don't lose your job. Don't quit your job. Find the value in your job. Meaning, if you're not living a value that's important to you, then live it while you're at that job. Find it in that job. So let's say you are an individual contributor and you're at a computer all day, and really you love being around people. What you can do is say, all right, my number one thing right here is being around people and being around teams. So you can volunteer for a project that may be out of your area. You can ask people to lunch, talk about your job, and get interaction through a lunch situation. Or you add that outside of your job, on your personal time. You do team sports, or you work with a group of people, helping build a home. So you start living those top values that you've identified. And then it's much easier to say, okay, this job doesn't have all my top values that I want to live, and it's time for me to look. And the energy around that is much different than, I'm really unhappy, I need to find something else.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of answers my next question. I was going to ask you, what would your advice be to someone who feels like stuck in their career, and ready for a career change? So
Yes. And I hope it doesn't sound like hard work, because it really isn't. And I'm seeing a lot of the younger generation really are in touch with, what is it that I like to do? I would say the baby boomers were really focused on money and financial, and I was when I first started out. And it's not the same. A lot of my clients are graduating with humanity degrees, where they're going out and it's like, I really want to save the world, right? And they know what that is. So just helping them put that into play with what's out there is what we do. But it's not that hard. There's so many books out there. Another one I'd like to recommend is Strength Finders 2.0. I'm sure you've heard about that. Those really tap into your natural talents. So anything like that would help you really get aligned with your values and that character that's deep inside.
So how would someone know when it's time to leave their job? Like, they've kind of been in their position a while. Do you have like a certain time when it's time to move on, or what do you recommend?
Well, there's a big difference between changing jobs and changing a career. So just depending on where you are, let's just talk about changing a career. So changing a career means, I've been doing this for so many years and I'm done. I've done it enough, meaning you're bored with what you're doing. You may be living your values. You love the people at work. You love the company. You love the benefits. It's not really anything like that, but it's just, you're just not challenged. And, it's a different problem on a different day, but it's all the same, and you're just done with it. And again, we talked about that happens when possibly your values shift. So I recommend when you are finding that there's just no there's no desire to get up and be in and doing that job, not so much the environment that you're in, but doing that job, then you need to reassess, what's changed. What did I like about this career before versus where I am now? So, for instance, I was an engineer when I started out. Gosh, why was I an engineer? Well, it really provided that financial independence that was really high on my list. It was a skill that I learned. It was challenging. I could work independently. So I went into that, and I worked at that for a long while, went into project engineering and what have you. But as my values shifted, I'm like, I no longer need some of the things that type of career gave me. Mm-hmm. I used it and it served me well, but I made some switch and some changes. So still I'm in this environment where I'm helping professional people, where I've spent a lot of my career. But it's a little bit on the side of fulfillment, which is personal fulfillment, not only for myself, but for my client. So that's a career change. A job change, again, goes back to, I hate getting on the phone and talking to cold calls. Mm-hmm. I just don't like doing it. I don't make enough money at it. When you're looking at values that you aren't respecting, things that you need to do that you don't value, that's when it's time to say, okay, what is it that I do value? What can I apply that I do naturally in another job, and start that process.
I love that. So many good points that you're bringing up. It's really good.
Definitely. Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, well, I feel like this information isn't so easy to find either, so you have to...
Well, yeah, and you find that that's a new concept about, I always say live from the inside out. And do you find that that's a new concept in your life?
Yeah, it's just kind of hard. I mean, in college, you don't no one tells you need to figure out your values, or no one tells you, no one gives you career coaching lessons in college. You're kind of on your own to find things outside of your classes and your courses and everything.
So just being an awareness that that's really where we're headed in today's job market. Employers can tell right away where your energy is. If you're just wanting a job because you need money, or this is a job that's completely aligned with you and they're willing to take you on regardless of your experience in it, because your energy around it is exactly what they need. Mm-hmm. Somebody that loves and is aligned with what it is they have a position open for.
Yeah,
it's clearly a differentiator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can definitely tell if you're passionate about it or not, whether you want that job.
Exactly.
So this is the question I ask at the end of all my interviews, is what is one thing you wish you would have known as a young professional woman just starting out in her career?
This exact thing. If I would have known my core self much better, my core values, it would have made, maybe my choices wouldn't have been different, but they'd have been more intentional. I think it would have made my career flow a little easier, rather than having a lot of resistance or pushing or trying to make things happen. What I call core self is like your intuition. And many of us learn not to, we quiet down that intuition. We'll get this gut feeling and we'll be like, no, that doesn't make sense. Let me go out and research this, or let me go talk to somebody. We go to the outside for our answers. If I would have trusted my intuition, I think my career would have gone a lot smoother, and maybe I'd have ended up in a place that I am now, which is much more aligned with who I am.
That's great advice. Very good. So where can people find out more about you online?
Well, my website is mypathnow.com. It's my career coaching transitions website. I do coaching for professionals. I also have students that are seniors that are looking to get into corporate or into business, so I work with the students as well. And that's a great place to start. It has all my information there.
Okay, awesome. And I will link to that for sure in my blog post. So thank you so much for talking with me today.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for having me. I hope this was helpful to your bloggers.
Yes, I definitely think it will be. So this is
Super.
Anna Runyon from ClassyCareerGirl.com.